folks. Welcome to the Dennis Miller Show. I am the aforementioned Mr. Miller. Let's see. In our next segment, we'll talk to Claire Lopez of the Citizens Commission on Benghazi. Well, I think even Krauthammer has said that Benghazi's over. So we'll see what Claire has to say. Maybe we've got maybe the true stories coming out right soon. Then musician Charlie Daniels will tell us about his new album, Off the Grid, Doing It Dylan. And this is a children's Christmas in Wales, Christian, as I understand?
Yes, of course. Charlie wanted to give his own spin on that.
Before or after the Vespa wreck that Dylan Thomas went through? Do you know that his original name? Forget it. Who wrote A Children's Christmas in Wales? Was it Dylan Thomas?
I believe so.
So when I was off on a Dylan thing, I was going to go to a Zimmerman thing, but I realized I hadn't even set up any base to do extrapolation on. My apologies. Lay down, Dennis, lay. 866-509-RANT, our phone number, 866-509-7268. Let me read you something that really speaks to the wussification of the world. This is unbelievable to me. You can't even go to the sports pages anymore. Honest to God, it's as rife with it as anywhere. This is by a man named Brad Rowland, R-O-W-L-A-N-D, at SportsIllustrated.com. James Harden has had a bad first two games for the Houston Rockets in their series against Portland. So he has this, they call it a testy locker room exchange in the headline. Harden shot 6 from 19 from the field and scored 18 points in Game 2. James Harden's a great player, combined with his 8 for 28 in Game 1. So this guy at this point, you think he's a little pissed off? He's 14 for 47 in the first two games. They've gotten blown out. The reporter asked him about it and then asked a couple backup questions, and they had a bit of it got a little, a little incendiary, way little incendiary. The media session in the Rockets, this is the story, Rockets' opulent locker room ended. Harden went back at the reporter, asking him if he'd ever seen a player not play well before. The reporter answered that the struggle seemed unusual for Harden and was coming on a major stage, the playoffs. The two went back and forth for a while. Harden asking the reporter if he'd ever seen a basketball game before. You can see why the guy's pissed. That doesn't seem that hot to me. And then the team officials grab Harden, lead him out, and Harden calls the reporter a weirdo. Now, here's where Rowland comes in. Speaking about his fellow reporter, he says, it's not surprising to see a star player who's struggling get testy with the media. But when that escalates to name-calling, the line has been crossed. Weirdo. He called him a weirdo. And this guy's name-calling. Man, this country went wuss. Let's go to Steve in California. Steve, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Dennis?
I live in a wuss country, man. I don't know what to say.
I get it. Well, I have a Bill Shatner story.
The non-wuss of the universe.
That's right. Just maybe pick things up a little bit. I'm a cameraman. I'm a freelance guy, and I got a call to do Shatner doing spoken word to a Foreigner track, Star Riders.
Wait a second. I got to stabilize. That's the greatest sentence I've ever heard.
And I thought, well, how much is it going to cost me to do this job?
So what anyway, do I have to pay to be there?
Yeah. So he was going to do it. I was going to shoot it in a recording studio. He was doing a track for his album, which just came out. This was last year. And I got there like 4 hours early, because I just wanted to bask in the glow.
Yes.
So he comes in, he does his track in one take.
Beautiful.
And he turns to me and says, okay, well, what are we doing? It's like 3.5 hours early. There's no client there. There's no director. I'm just a freelance guy. So I told him what I had from like a 1-minute phone conversation when I got the gig, which was, well, here's what they want to do and whatever. And he's like, I'm not feeling that. And so they want you to do this. And he's like, I don't know. It's not going to work. And
he beamed out.
I'm thinking like, here's my big gig directing Shatner, and it's not going well, So I said, okay, how about this? I'll shut up, turn the camera on, and you do whatever you want. How will that be? And he liked that idea. He thought that would be a pretty good way to go.
Boy, I like them even more now because those shoots can really get mindless, man, where you're there like for 10 hours and, guys are adjusting the pronunciation of syllables. I like him coming in. That's like Sinatra telling Louis Millstone or Milestone, you've got one take, then I'm heading to the sauna with Sammy and Peter and Dean. All right, thanks for the story, Steve in California. Nice to know that Shatner's a man who knows what he wants, as befits a captain in the starship, right?
Absolutely.
Leah, pretty good. That's not too much lag. I'd have to give you credit for that one, Leah. That's good, because we haven't done a starship in years. He picked up the redundo. All right, back after this with Claire Lopez of the Charlie Daniels Band on the Dennis Miller Show. I don't know about you, but I don't like taking pills for minor arthritis pain, and I don't like those patches either. But I have found something that works. Australian Dream Arthritis Pain Relief Cream. Doesn't smell, doesn't burn, isn't greasy, and it works. And Australian Dream has an empty jar guarantee. You can use the whole jar. If you say you're not happy, you get your money back. I don't think you're going to send it back, though. The stuff works. For relief from minor arthritis pain, get Australian Dream. Available at Target. What a cool song. Am I out of it that I like Wings, or does everybody like Wings?
I think everybody likes Wings.
Isn't
Everybody
that a
loves
groovy
Sir
song?
Paul.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Dennis Miller Show. 866. If the Beatles had never existed and Wings came and played that song, he'd be Paul McCartney still, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they were groovy. His solo work in that. But he happened to be in the Beatles. All right, joining us now is Claire Lopez of the Citizens Commission on Benghazi. Claire, how are you?
Good, very good, thanks, and good to be with you.
Hey, tell the listeners about the Citizens Commission on Benghazi.
Right, so last year, 2013, there were numerous congressional investigations underway into what happened in Libya at Benghazi. There was also the State Department's Accountability Review Board. But as we looked at the results from each one of those, we saw that they were not really getting to the truth. And you look at some of those reports that came out of Congress, and there's at least as many blacked-out, redacted pages as pages you could actually read. And so a group of us under the leadership of Roger Aronoff, who is the editor of AIM, A-I-M, Accuracy in Media, which is a media watchdog group, came together. We are retired military, retired intelligence community people, and others who were concerned about the truth about Benghazi getting out to the American people. And this vehicle, this group at AIM, was seemed to us the right vehicle to investigate, to hold to account not just the media, which with certain exceptions like talk radio, thank you, and a certain few others in the media like Fox and maybe Breitbart and some others, were not really holding our leadership to account. So to hold the media to account and then to hold government to account for not telling the American people the truth about Benghazi. That is why we formed mid-last year, and now we have just issued an interim report.
Did you take particular umbrage at then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's saying, what difference is this point did it make? That must have been nails on a chalkboard to you.
Absolutely. That outburst, just absolutely got to every last one of us. And, for those of us who've served overseas, as I have, and our military people have, and the others in the intelligence community, we know what it's like to be out there in some kind of crisis situation, be it natural disaster, civil unrest, or civil war. And you have a compact with your government. The government sends you in harm's way. You accept the job. You accept the posting. And in return, rely on the government. You rely on our leadership to help us in time of trouble. And in this case, that didn't happen. Our people were left out there to die, to fight and die alone and know that no help was coming. And not only wasn't coming, but nobody even tried to send help.
Now, let me ask you this, and I might be making too much of a leap because it seems, well, I just think they're simple declarative things. When I hear the phrase "trust the government," it seems like such a dinosaur to me. I don't trust the government. Will you ever again, or you believe this was a one-off instance where they dropped the ball?
No, I have to agree with you. This is institutional.
Yes.
And I don't mean even to make it a partisan political issue either, because this is institutional. This has to do with every group and agency. I mean, we have looked at the Department of State. We have looked at the Department of Defense. Excuse me. We've looked at the intelligence community. And in each case, there were failures that were systemic. Yes, the leadership at the top it should count for a lot, and in this case it didn't. But you look at each one of these, and there were systemic failures.
Do you think that I know we live in maddeningly fair times, but do you think when you have a president and a secretary of state who are of one political affiliation, and indeed who raced each other to the top of their party with commercials about who do you want to call at 3 in the morning when it hits the fan, do you think, in fairness, we have to say that it's non-party in this case? Are we to stay away from the fact that this seems to be a Democratic approach to this problem, or do we have to say Democrats and Republicans? Although I don't know what they could have done that night.
Well, I mean, I take your point, and I know what you're saying, but knowing
okay.
what we know now from this report, for instance, the fact that every single agency involved in our government acquiesced, and probably including the top levels of Congress on both sides of the aisle.
Well, they probably felt the Democrats and Republicans leaning on them, right?
Well, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they acquiesced in a U.S. foreign policy that in Libya, 10 years after 9/11, facilitated the provision of weapons to al-Qaeda. That is unconscionable. And every single agency agreed with that. They signed off on it. They facilitated it. So that goes beyond partisan politics.
Right.
But of course, it's
and it would be a misnomer to trace it back to the commander-in-chief and the secretary of state. That would be a mistake on somebody's part.
The intelligence community was in on that too. The Defense Department had people on the ground within distance who could have tried to make it to get there to help our people, and they didn't do it. We just saw a report yesterday from Eli Lake in the Daily Beast in which he talked about Special Forces Green Berets at a camp nearby Tripoli. His point in the article was talking about the fact that camp's now been taken over by a jihadist by the name of Tantouche. And in the article, though, he talks about the camp being a terror. Now it's a terror camp. Previously, it was a U.S. government special forces training camp for Libyan forces. One must ask which forces. In any case, the place has changed hands now. But the point in the article, there were special forces there on September 11, 2012. Why didn't anyone call on them? Why didn't they come to the rescue, or at least attempt to come to the rescue of our besieged Americans in Benghazi that night? Why didn't anyone at Aviano in Italy even attempt?
Well, somebody obviously let down President Obama and let down Hillary Clinton, and I hope you find out who it is, Claire. It sounds like you guys are dogged about this, but let's find out the link in the chain that, quite frankly, did not serve the President and the Secretary of State well. Citizens Commission on Benghazi, Claire Lopez. The Citizens Commission on Benghazi is part of the organization Accuracy in Media, AIM, as Claire said. For more information, go to aim.org. Go get them, Claire.
Thanks so much, Dennis. Appreciate it.
All right, kiddo. 866-509-RANT, 866-509-7268. I misunderstood the commander-in-chief thing. You know what? I think it all comes back to when you were raised, and I was raised during a time that now is way, way back there in the mist, and I was always enamored. And you have to trust me, younger people. For years, there was a famous quote from a president. Jack Kennedy had one: "Ask not what your country can do for you." And there was one from Harry Truman. He had a plaque on his desk saying, "The buck stops here." And it was kind of famous, and it was kind of endearing in a way, and Truman did take responsibility for many cosmically intricate issues. And I believe, some people look at him as an ogre in history. I think he saved approximately 250,000 young men and women from America by ending the war, and ending the war in a 2-day second. But I have to train myself out of the buck not stopping there. But then again, I don't have a president who says that. Somewhere out there, there's somebody in the IRS scandal and the AP taping and the Benghazi thing and Fast and Furious, and they might be different sets of people. So we're conceivably talking about 4 people who have let down President Obama, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in case of Benghazi, and Eric Holder in the case of Fast and Furious. So I guess we're trying to find these people. We will get to them. I guess they're going to try to find who actually blew up Benghazi first. We haven't found them yet. And then we'll get to who dropped the ball that night. But it is new training for me that I have to get used to the fact that the people at the head of the things are in no way culpable anymore. And that's a woman who's trying to get the truth in it. And you could see, I tried to query her on, did she think that the White House might have anything to do with this, or the Secretary of State, and she was insistent that this is not a bipartisan thing. I'm saying when those two things are in the hands of Democrats, would it be fair to say that it might lead back to the Democratic president or the Democratic Secretary of State? And I'm also puzzled that both of them ran on this ad that was so in my head as Benghazi wrapped those first few days, where I thought, God, these were the people telling us you didn't want to call the other one at 3 a.m. And I'm willing to bet that the reason we don't hear more about this is I think both of them slept through that night. Just my thoughts. I'm guessing. I know I might be a militia guy or a racist or whatever, but I'm thinking both of them might have not been awakened by AIDS.
Hey, this is Carl and Linda Bott.
Join us weekdays from 7 to 9 a.m.
Right here on Free Fire Radio on KCNR 1460.
How many federal agencies does it take to screw in a light bulb? All of them. I'm Charles Goyette.
A new report describes the overlapping and duplication of different federal agencies all doing the same job. I'm Ron Paul.
Ron Paul's America, right after this.
Hey, everybody, this is good old JR Jim Ross, and I've got Diamond Dallas Page on the Ross Report.
A couple times I did Hollywood Squares. I remember some of the actors going, so when is your off season? And I said, when I'm hurt. When I'm injured, I'm off.
So download the Ross Report at podcast1.com. That's podcast1.com.
Welcome back to the show. In our next segment, we'll be joined by Charlie Daniels, but let's take some phone calls. And Mary in Kansas. Hey, Mary, how are you? You're on the Dennis Miller Show. We'll be joined by Charlie Daniels. We'll let her get on, and then we have to go because she used her time on the wrap-up.
Let's
go to Jeff in Indiana. Jeff, how are you?
Hey, sir, how are you?
Good,
Long-time listener. Love the show.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, I just thought on a funny note, the media has been so serious about the Pope and the canonization, if you want to say, and is the Pope going to show up? Kind of reminds me of the old Dean Martin roast at the International Hotel in Las Vegas in the 70s. I can see all the popes and the cardinals up there and just having a good old time. I thought maybe you'd get a kick out of that.
Well, and I can also in my mind's eye see Foster Brooks turning absolutely everything into wine.
And a very young Phyllis Diller up there, maybe in a nun's outfit. So
yes.
Just thought you'd get a kick out of it.
I did, Jeffrey. Thank you for the nice reminder. I have all the Dean Martin roasts right here in front of me. I keep them on my desk. Let me grab that. Isn't that funny you would say that? And I arrange my desktop so it's comforting. And I have my Dean Martin Celebrity Roasts, available for the first time, 12 complete roasts on 6 DVDs. And I haven't even broken it open yet. I don't watch the things I accumulate. I have every bad old science fiction film, and I leave them in their plastic wrap because I'm reminded of me getting rid of, like, rookie cards from people who they're now worth millions of dollars and stuff. So I'm going to bequeath these to my kids so they can get some sort of archaeological perspective on their old man and his interests. But I wonder if there's a section of these Dean Martin roasts where they just, that was the one thing missing. Can you imagine them today on cable? Like the ribald nature of it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it would be hilarious just to hear Rickles tearing Reagan a new one in the vernacular. Let's go to Richard in Mississippi. Hey, Richard, how are you? You're on the Dennis Miller Show.
Hey, Dennis, first and foremost, let me say thank you, sir, very much for allowing me on your show the other day when Congressman Miller was on the show.
Did you go meet him, Richard?
We have a meeting set up for May the 12th.
That's good, Richard. Now tell me, when after you have that, call back and we'll talk off the air about how that went. But I hope it goes well for you, my friend.
I sure will. Listen, what I wanted to tell you about this morning, I don't know if you saw the national news or not, but the Phoenix, Arizona VA hospital is now under investigation because 40 veterans have died as a result of a failure to receive proper appointments in a timely manner. We've lost 40 of our veterans because of their incompetence.
Wow. Well, Richard, to be honest, I have not read about it. I'll read more about it because it sounds like a sacrosanct issue, and I'm uninformed. But I'm glad that Miller guy stepped forward. At least it's nice to know there's an ethical man down there in Washington, and I'm glad you're going to meet with him. And Godspeed, Richard. And I will try to read more on the Phoenix VA hospital, but I would be off on a comment on something I don't know anything about right now. Christian, what is that Miller man's first name, since I think that's a fine thing he's doing? Listen, I even if it's just to let a man vent about the 12-year struggle he's had, for God's sakes. It takes a mensch to step up and be the guy to, give face to the government there when so many of them scurry when they hear these poor men who saved our world have to talk about how they have to beg to get their benefits.
Right, and he's Representative Jeff Miller of Florida.
Well, listen, we always say these people are idiots, and I often say out of up on the hill there's probably 500 idiots and 35 good, decent, principled men. If you get a chance today, you send that Jeff Miller guy something on, they all seem to have websites at gov.org or whatever the hell it is. But it's worth the track down for 2 minutes of your life just to say good on you for meeting with this guy in Mississippi. You're a stand-up cat, Jeff Miller, on this issue, and thank you. Thank you for being a good man. 866-509-RANT, our phone number, 866-509-7268. I'll be performing at the Orleans Casino and Hotel in Las Vegas June 13th and 14th. For more information, go to DennisMillerRadio.com and click on Dennis Live. You know, in today's business world, I'm out on the road a lot, and you can't always meet with your colleagues, collaborate in the same room. I can't ignore Liev up close and personal every day. I sometimes have to go on the road and use GoToMeeting to ignore him, because not everyone's in the same office. Stay connected with coworkers and clients with GoToMeeting by Citrix. It's the proven solution for meeting and collaborating online. With GoToMeeting, you can share the same screen to review documents, make presentations in real time, and with built-in HD video conferencing, you just need a webcam to see each other face-to-face, probably clearer than you would if you were with them, depending on your eyeglass prescription. GoToMeeting works on any Mac, PC, tablet, or smartphone. We use GoToMeeting at the Dennis Miller Show all the time. I join in from the road. My producer connects from the studio. My engineer logs in from New York. We triangulate. See why millions of people choosing GoToMeeting. Start your hosting of your own face-to-face online meetings and do it today. Try it free for 30 days. Visit GoToMeeting.com. Click the Try It Free button and use the promo code Dennis. That's GoToMeeting.com, promo code Dennis. Back after the break with Charlie Daniels on the Dennis Miller Show.
I'm not sleepy and there ain't no place I'm going to.
Sounds great. Joining us now, new album, Off the Grid, Doing It Dylan. Boy, that sounds good. Charlie Daniels. Charlie, what's shaking?
Hey, buddy, just out here, talking to you. Looking forward to the first time we talked. I enjoy it.
Yeah. How far back you go with Bob Zimmerman?
I first met him in 1969 when he came to Nashville to do an album called
Nashville Skyline.
Skyline,
Mm-hmm.
right, yeah. And stayed around for a couple others, Self-Portrait, New Morning. So we go back quite a way, actually. He's just one of my all-time favorites. He just kind of changed the whole music business when he came in, rather than kind of went out of the Tin Pan Alley Broadway musical kind of thing into some real freedom when you wrote and performed your music, and I wanted some of that, so I really got into it.
Yeah, you already, your appetite was whetted. Now, you're a Dylan fan. You get a call from who? The producer of a session he's doing for Nashville Skyline, and what, you go over and sit in?
Well, actually what happened was there was 15 sessions booked to do Nashville Skyline, and the guitar player they had for all the sessions could not make the first one. He already had a booking, so they asked me to come in and do the first one, and I worked real hard on it, and when I got ready to leave, Dylan wanted me to stay around, so I did, and it turned into a really good thing. He was always kind enough to put everybody's name on the back of the albums, and people would read the liner notes back those days. Of course, the big old vinyl albums are big enough to read, so having your name on the back of the Dylan album was a pretty prestigious thing at the time. It really helped me out.
Well, it sounds like you hit the ball in your session, man. Did the other cat get, as they say in baseball, Wally pipped, where he didn't get the... Lou Gehrig stepped in for a guy one day, and 2,130 games later, he was still in there. Did that happen to the guy?
Well, yeah, with me, I mean, doing those 3 albums, I mean, it just, it was 3 albums in a row that in sequence that Dylan released, and, it just kind of got to be, you're the guy that plays on the Dylan album, so we'll pay some attention to you. Yo, you got some songs you wrote? Yeah.
Yeah.
You sing them? Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a great thing to have on your curriculum vitae. We're talking to Charlie Daniels. He's got a new album, Off the Grid, Doing It Dylan. Tell us about it, Charlie.
It came about kind of an odd way, Dennis. We were asked to do some music for a TV show called Hell on Wheels, which takes place back in the 1800s. So we were limited to using instruments from around in the 1800s, which was all acoustic. We had never done a full band acoustic thing before, and we did this one piece of music, and we were so taken with the way we sounded that way that we decided it was a new sound for us. We decided to do a whole album that way, and what better well to go into than the Dylan well? It's bottomless. You got so much material there. So we tried to find songs that we could kind of put our own mark on that would sound like a Dylan song, definitely, but done by CDB. And if we find one that didn't work real well, we kind of step over that one and go to another one. We had no shortage of material.
What's the roster for CDB now? Who's in the band?
Well, I got Charlie Hayward, bass player, been with me for 39 years. Bruce Brown, a guitar player for 25 years. Pat McDonald, a drummer for 15 years. Chris Wormer, one of the other guitar players, for about 12 years.
Wow.
And our keyboard player is the newest guy in the band. He's working on his 3rd year.
God, you guys must have a gas together. What songs did you pick from the bottomless Dylan well, though? Somewhere you got to put the ladle in. What'd you come up with?
Well, we came up with, the Tangled Up Blue, Quinn the Eskimo, Times They Are A-Changin', I'll Be Your Baby Tonight, stuff that's kind of, some of it's pretty familiar, but we didn't go in any kind of I've had people during interviews ask me about, about doing stuff from his early, middle, and, he was constantly changing, and we didn't look at it in any kind of chronological or style order. We just tried to go through and pick songs that would work for us. So it's a mixture of early stuff, real early stuff, going back to the middle 60s, and on up to You Gotta Serve Somebody, which I think came up here just a few years ago.
Yeah. Have you heard from Bob? Does he dig it, or would he give it a thumbs up?
Talked to him on the phone the other day, called, and I told him we had done an album of his and had done 10 tunes, and I wanted to send it to him, which I did. I hadn't heard back from him yet, but I hope he'll like it.
Charlie.
I just hope he'll like it, man.
Well, that first cut sounds beautiful, babe. I want to go to the break again with it. So thanks for your time, Charlie. It sounds great. New album, Off the Grid, Doing It Dylan. And give me a little more. I know we're not going to a break. Let me hear that again.
I promise to go under it. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. I'm not.
Well, Charlie Daniels' song sounded a little better than that, but I believe that was our friend Dennis losing the connection there, which is always exciting when you get thrown a curve like that in the beautiful, beautiful world of radio, and that's what we're listening on. And if you want to be a part of the Dennis Miller Show, you can call me at 866-509-RANT. That's 866-509-7268. But in the interim, let's hear one of our beloved voicemails. Let's hear number one.
Hey, I got a good one. Why is Portland, Oregon throwing 37 million gallons of water away when there's a drought in California because a 19-year-old urinated in the water? Doesn't make sense to me, but thought I'd let you know about it. You have a good day, and maybe you can figure out what I can't understand. Bye.
Well, the guy has a good point, and some of you may have heard that call in a past, present, future hour of this very show. And I don't know. I don't know what I think about that. That's a lot of water to get rid of, but some dude did pee in it. I mean, I guess, I don't know. I mean, is there urine in our drinking water all the time, and we just don't know it? So maybe the guy does have a point. What do you think? Give us a call. That number that I gave you earlier, 866-509-RANT. That's 866-509-7268. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Texas Governor Rick Perry, he told CBS this morning that he's going to need more preparation if he runs for president again in 2016. I agree with Governor Perry. I believe he will need preparation right on through 2020. I just wanted to try and say it the way that Barbara Walters always would say, 2020. 2020. Is it fun for only me to hear myself say that? Probably. Probably is. So, in any event, what we're going to do now is we are going to go, oh boy, Tom in Oregon. Tom in Oregon, I know you're calling about something else, but are you impacted by the urine in the drinking water? Is that something that you're concerned about?
Don't bother me one bit.
doesn't bother you at all. Hey, it's probably got
about 150 miles north of me.
Okay, so if that was in your town, though, if that was going to be your water, would that bother you?
Well, got to figure out what Bambi and all the fish have been doing in that water.
It's a good point. Yeah, I think I feel like you might agree with me. I feel like it happens all the time. We just don't usually know about it. So there's not really much that we can do. But, Tom, you had another point you wanted to make about the missing airliner. And, we heard so much about it for a few weeks there. We're hearing about it less and less. But what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I'll tell you what, Dennis, I think there were two airplanes. Because if these pilots can turn those electronic devices on and off at will, or the ground crew could turn them on and off at will, that 370, hell, that thing took off and headed north and landed some damn place. They had another cargo plane that had a couple black boxes in it. When they got down into that deep part of the Indian Ocean, they threw them out. And nonetheless, the bottom line here is we got a whole country of people that hate anybody that don't believe exactly what they believe.
Yeah. Well, no, I definitely agree with that, and thank you for calling in, Tom. I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting theory. There's so many theories. I feel like every theory's been out there, and everybody has one. My theory is that we'll probably never know. I just think that the last time I looked at a globe, which honestly is not that often, last time I looked at a globe, it was really big, and most of it was blue. And it's it's really deep in that blue part, whatever they call that, the blue part, on the globe. The ocean. Yeah, that's very deep. So I feel like it's very hard to find anything, and as upsetting as it is for family members or, just the voyeuristic nature of current society that always wants to know what's going wrong with anything that's out there. They just want to know. But I feel like we're not going to know. What happened to, Amelia Earhart? There's a perfect example. Still don't know where she is. And by the way, why has no one talked about the Bermuda Triangle in so long? I know this was nowhere near it. I'm not even trying to tie this to that. But we haven't heard about the Bermuda Triangle in a long time. What are your thoughts on the Bermuda Triangle? I'm here to talk about the hard-hitting issues of the day because we lost connection with Dennis Miller. But on the line, friend of the Dennis Miller Show, friend of mine, friend of my Blackcast, which you can find at DennisMillerRadio.com/Blackcast, Tim in San Diego. Tim, welcome back to the Dennis Miller Show.
I'm still trying to figure out what happened to Dennis.
that makes all of us. He was just rocking out to some Charlie Daniels, and you know what? We all know Charlie Daniels for his song "Devil Went Down to Georgia." So I just hope Dennis's soul is okay. That's my only concern right now. I want to make sure that Charlie didn't somehow, in the transfer of getting Charlie off the phone, he possibly didn't conference in old Mephisto himself. And maybe some kind of transfer of soul. But that's not what you called about. You called about something to do with Bob Dylan, which Charlie Daniels was just on this very show talking about. What are your thoughts on Mr. Dylan?
Well, I was very pleased to hear that he picked the greatest Dylan song of all time, my favorite, Tangled Up in Blue. I mean,
sure.
It's a courageous act. I haven't heard his version yet, but a courageous act to take that one on because it's such a ridiculously good song. And
well, you'll be able to hear it, Tim. And thank you for calling in, Tim in San Diego. You hear the music, so you know that we're out of time. You'll be able to hear that and a collection of other, I believe, 10 other Bob Dylan songs. Charlie Daniels' new album, Off the Grid. Doing it, Dylan. I'm Christian Black. This is the Dennis Miller Show. Dennis is somewhere. We're going to see if we can flag him down. This is the Dennis Miller Show.